The other day when I posted about this season of struggle that we're in with these readings, I noted that the themes of the weeks alternate between conflict, which was the first week, and fear, which is the reading for the second week. And the fact that this Bible study is delayed by a whole week, I admit to having some fear that it was never going to come out. Part of it has been delays on my part. These are not easy times that we live in, and part of it is just schedules not working out. So you're here again with just me today. Also to note, Diane's mother is not well, so please do keep Diane and her mom in your prayers. On to our reading. We hear this from Genesis chapter 15, verse 1. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. When I read this reading in preparation for figuring out how to approach this part of the year, it was these words of God to Abraham that seemed to stand out for me. There is a fair amount of fear these days. Fear with regards to political issues here and in the United States. Fear with regards to health issues, with the COVID-19 pandemic cases on the rise again. And we hear these words of God to Abram. When we look at the Hebrew that underlies the text, though, we see this. This section that is circled contains the Hebrew text for afraid, yare, which, when we look even deeper at it, we see this. You may not be able to see it yourself, depending on the size of the screen that you're looking at. But mostly there are different meanings that are well translated as afraid, but sometimes the meanings are different. Sometimes it's translated as terrible, worshipped, awesome, revered, or meanings closer to afraid, terrified, frightened, feared. I think given the context of the reading that we have, afraid is a pretty good translation. But all of those possible translations have something in common. They are times when things are a bit unsettled, maybe even a bit agitated. And so here's the first question for today's Bible study. What is the most unsettling thing in life these days? Take some time to think about that. Pause the video if you wish and make some notes. One of the nice things about these online Bible studies, I'm fine with waiting as you spend some time with the material. What is the most unsettling thing in life these days? Back to our text. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great. If we look at this verse again, I think many of us jump to the part that is just after the semicolon. Who doesn't want a reward from God? However, in the midst of the fear of being afraid, we might need to stop for a moment and look before that. Look at the shield part. I don't know about you, but when I'm afraid, I know that I want to feel protected, feel supported, feel guided, feel as if I'm going to be helped. This shield, Magan, the shield as it is mostly translated, although one time it's translated as large, this shield is translated as large in 2 Chronicles. And it's actually in reference to one of the shields owned by King David. Which leads us into the second question for today's Bible study. How big is God's protection of us? We know that God cares for us, that God is concerned about our well-being, and that God protects us. And yet, at times, in the midst of the fears of life, we can act as if God's shield of protection is pretty small. So take a moment and think about how big is God's protection of us? If you didn't stop the video and think of responses to those questions, I encourage you to think of responses once the video's over. Take some time to answer them. And then drop me a note. Let's explore both fear and God's protection. I'll see you in a few days. Until then, peace and blessings to you.